Good morning, NAACP. We first today want to certainly give honor to God, to President Jealous and Chairman Brock, to Roger Van, our COO, to Hillary Shelton, Director of our Washington Bureau, to Lorraine Miller, and Derek Johnson, the co-chairs of our Advocacy and Policy Committee. And I'd also like to ask the board members of the Legislative and Political Action Committee who've been asked to serve by our chairman, if you would stand if you're in the audience at this time. Would you give them a hand? Dr. Lonnie Randolph and I noted yesterday that this convention is being held between two historical bookmarks: the 47th anniversary of the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the 46th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. My job today, standing in this moment, is to be clear about why we're here to talk about not one step backwards when it comes to voting right and redistricting, and why we're here in a plenary and not in one sidebar workshop. Readily available research reveals the 15th Amendment was ratified on February 3rd, 1870, provided that the right of U.S. citizens to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any other state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Additionally, under that amendment, the Congress was given the authority to enforce those rights and regulate the voting process. Thomas Munday Peterson was the first African American to vote after the amendment's adoption. Peterson cast his vote at City Hall in Perth Amboy, New Jersey on March 31st, 1870. On a per capita and absolute basis, more blacks were elected to public office during the period from 1865 to 1880 than at any other time in American history, including a number of state legislatures which were effectively under the control of strong African American caucuses. During this period of fusion politics, blacks and whites joined together to reconstruct this nation towards the noble goals of justice and equality, and passed some of the most progressive economic, educational, and labor laws in our nation's history. The radical racist Dixiecrats, in some ways the precursor of the radical Tea Party, could not stand for this yesterday as they are fighting coalition politics today. Starting in 1870, they started a campaign and they called themselves the Redeemers and said it was their job to redeem America from the influence of black political power and progress. These radical Dixiecrats found means to deny the vote to blacks through violence, intimidation, and Jim Crow. And from 1890 to 1908, 10 southern states wrote new constitutions with provisions that included literacy tests, poll taxes, and grandfather clauses. State provisions applied to all voters and were upheld by ultra-conservative radical Supreme Court beginning in 1875. And later in the 20th century, when the Supreme Court began to find a few of these provisions unconstitutional, states reacted rapidly in devising new legislation to continue the disenfranchisement of most blacks. In 1902, George White The last African-American congressperson from the Reconstruction era who was from North Carolina was driven out of office. Riots ensued from Wilmington, North Carolina to Springfield, Illinois, directly aimed at dismantling the power and potential of the black vote. In fact, if you look at history, we find a pattern. Beginning in the late 1860s and again in the late 1960s, the strategy to stop any effort at Reconstruction has always contained four sinister parts. One, attacking voting rights. Two, attacking tax revenue and government programs and agencies designed to promote social uplift. Attacking educational policy and attacking or assassinating our leaders. In 1909, the NAACP was created with the mission to promote civil rights, including, I quote, to secure for them impartial suffrage or voting. And we declare today, here at the beginning of the 21st century, the NAACP must still lead the effort to protect the power, the necessity, and the potential of the black vote. Today, our role is still to fight for the impartial, unabridged right to vote, because the power, necessity, and the potential of the black, brown, and progressive vote, we must fight any attempt to suppress, segregate, isolate, or steal this power. And the reason we are here in this general session is because everything we fight for, equal protection under law, educational equality, economic justice, access to health care, are all directly impacted by voting. We must fight any attempt to suppress, segregate, isolate, or steal the power, the necessity, and the potential of the black vote. Because we know the historical and political DNA of the Tea Party, founded by Charles and David Koch, whose father was Freddie Koch, who helped found the John Birch Society of the 1950s, the society that fought against civil rights, fought against voting rights, fought against Brown versus Board of Education. This is the poisonous money funding the Tea Party. This is the money dipped in the poison politics of yesterday. Just the other day, my daughter, who developed hydrocephalus at 2 years old, asked me could she go and speak at a rally. She was operated on by Benjamin Carson, and she lives as a miracle, now 17 years old. She has a drainage system in the right side of her head. She said, "Can I go speak with you at a voting rally?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "I want to do it because next year I'm 18, and for me to be 18 is a miracle." When she finished, Mother Dukes, talking about voting rights, and when she finished, Sister Eva Williams, in less than 30 minutes, the radical extremists had already put her picture up on their website, labeling her as the new generation of Marxists and communists. What we see happening today is not just about us that are alive now, but about taking our hope and the future of our children, and we must take it personal and fight back against any attempt to suppress, to segregate, to isolate, and steal the power of the black vote. Because we understand that this so-called debt crisis has been created by the ultra-conservative extreme right wing. It is not just about stopping President Obama, but it is an attempt to finalize a 40-year strategy to undermine, underfund, and destroy every program since Social Security in 1935, Medicaid and Medicare, the Department of Education that furthers the cause of justice for all, every program that has sought to uplift the forces of oppression from the backs of black, brown, and poor people. We must fight against any attempt to suppress, segregate, isolate, and steal the black vote. Now, according to the census figures, there were 28 million African American adults age 18 or older in 2006. In 2004 presidential elections, they made up 12%, about 13 voters. That means an estimated 15 million voting age blacks didn't vote. The ban on ex-felon voting in 15 states makes up another 3 million potential black voters. That means millions of African American adults who are either officially barred from voting or decline to vote. We know, according to the Advancement Project in 2008 election, that in 12 states, Colorado, Florida, Michigan, Missouri, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Virginia, Wisconsin, 3 million blacks and over 7 million blacks and Hispanics who are already registered to vote didn't vote. So in this 21st century, the NAACP must wield a double-edged sword. We must fight the forces trying to suppress the black vote, and we must cut to the quick of the conscience of our people who refuse to vote. The forces of regression are doing everything they can to prevent the possibility of a third Reconstruction. Just like the Confederate flag still flies at the state capitol in South Carolina, a strong, poisonous political spirit of radical extremism is flying over and through our nation's democracy. Tell your neighbor, you pay attention today. Every victory we have won and yet need to win is under attack. And it is our calling on our watch to protect the right to vote and maximize the potential of our vote like only the NAACP can. So, this plenary today is not a one-time filler on the program. This plenary today must be a war room where we sound the call to arms. This plenary must be reproduced back home in every branch meeting, in every state conference, in every church, and at every community event. This plenary must be our political Pentecost and our upper room where we have come for inspiration and we are filled with a fresh spirit. We get information and we decide here and now that Rome nor any other manifestation of political oppression never has the last word. We've come for inspiration, we've come for information so that we can go back north, south, east, and west and engage in implementation of a get out to vote effort that will make our foremothers and forefathers' sacrifice worthy of the sacrifice. We will be anointed as ambassadors of justice, declaring that dark Fridays even come politically, but resurrection is always possible. Now is the time for us to have courage. Now is the time for us to rise up. Now is the time for us to fight back and show this nation that the sons and daughters of freedom fighters make one promise to America for which we will never retreat. When it comes to our rights ordained by God, guaranteed by the Constitution, we will work together and we will never, ever, ever go back. Never angry people and tell them never will we go back. Somebody shout forward. Together. Not one step. Not one step. Not one step. Back. Never.